Your car is spying on you, and it's only the beginning.
We've been playing victim to this small print for quite a while.
I don't think you can protect your face anymore.
Would you worry more that it's governments collecting this data or corporations?
There's only so much energy you can put into it before you're just like, just let it go.
These robots now exist in society. Are they going to be used for emergency situations? Are they going to be used for crowd control? And then the final big one, ground troops.
For me, I think this story feels like one of those moments where science fiction suddenly starts looking little less fictional.
No more Conor McGregor. Instead, it's the T-800s.
Hello and welcome to episode 113 of Disconnected. I'm your host, Jag Sharma, joined by my co-hosts Jason Kapadia in Dubai and Matt Webster in Rio de Janeiro. And together, we'll be delving into the world of AI tech and social media and how it's impacting society and culture. Coming up, your car is spying on you. Not metaphorically, literally. Modern vehicles are now collecting astonishing amounts of personal data, from your location and driving habits to your facial expressions, weight, behavior, and even your emotional state. Insurance companies are buying into it, governments are expanding it, and most people have absolutely no idea it's happening. Jason takes us through the avalanche of announcements from Google I/O 2026, from AI agents and Gemini Omni to smart glasses and AI-powered search, as Google pushes towards a world where AI doesn't just answer questions, but starts doing life for you. And Matt brings us the latest in humanoid robotics as Chinese robotics company Ambient AI unveils what may be the strongest humanoid robot yet. A machine so aggressive looking and physically capable that comparisons to a certain famous aggressive robot are suddenly being made. Suddenly not science fiction anymore. All of this, as well as other trending topics. Right then, guys, let's get into it. I'll kick us off. Your car is spying on you, and it's only the beginning. I want to start this episode with something that honestly feels deeply dystopian once you properly sit with it. Your car is spying on you, and I don't mean some vague, abstract, everything tracks us now kind of way. I mean, your car may already know where you go, how fast you drive, how hard you brake, whether you wear your seatbelt, who is in the car with you, what music you listen to, how tired you look, your facial expressions, your body language, and potentially other aspects of your health. Some modern cars even contain inward-facing cameras pointing directly at you, the driver. And the really unsettling part is, cars used to represent the exact opposite of this. For generations, cars symbolized independence, freedom, escape, privacy. Your first car was often the first place in life that truly felt like yours. No teachers, no parents, no office, no algorithm. Just you, your thoughts, and the road in front. And now, that private space is quietly turning into one of the most invasive technology environments in modern life. Modern cars are essentially computers on wheels. Internet connected, sensor heavy, always collecting, always transmitting. And most people have no idea how much data is being harvested while they drive around in blissful ignorance. Because I think that's exactly what's happening. We've normalized surveillance through convenience, and it always arrives disguised as something helpful. Safety, personalization, smart features, insurance discounts, driver assistance. But underneath it all, it's rapidly expanding data economy. Insurance companies can now buy behavioral data. Data brokers are building profiles. Manufacturers are monetizing telemetry. Governments are introducing more biometric monitoring systems. And suddenly, your car is no longer just transportation. It becomes a sensor platform, a behavioral tracking device, a rolling biometric scanner, and potentially one of the richest data collection environments in your daily life. Your life can basically be recreated almost on a second by second basis. And that's the thing. This is not just about whether somebody knows you drove too fast one afternoon. It's about pattern building. AI systems increasingly do not care about isolated actions. They care about behavioral models. Because patterns reveal habits, stress, routines, relationships, political affiliations, health conditions, emotional states, risk profiles. And when enough data sources merge together, your phone, your search history, your purchases, your vehicle, the system starts to build something dangerously close to a digital behavioral twin of you. That's where this starts to become societal rather than technical, because we are entering a world where objects around us are no longer passive tools. They are active observers. Your fridge, your glasses, your watch, your car. Everything becomes intelligent. But intelligence increasingly means surveillance. And I think one of the most dangerous things happening culturally right now is that surveillance no longer feels oppressive. It feels convenient. That's the shift. Historically, people feared surveillance because it was visible and authoritarian. Now it arrives through UX design, clean interfaces, helpful assistance, safety features, smart recommendations. The control layer becomes invisible. And what worries me is that once these systems exist, they rarely shrink. They expand. Now, obviously, nobody wants drunk drivers on the road. But this is where things get complicated, because safety technologies often become gateway technologies. Once the infrastructure exists to monitor your eyes, your behavior, your body language, and your biometrics in real time, what else will that data eventually be used for? Insurance pricing, employment screening, health scoring, law enforcement access, advertising, predictive behavioral modeling, and crucially, who owns that information? Because at the moment, it increasingly feels like we do not own our own behavioral data anymore. Corporations do. And cars are becoming the perfect symbol of that next phase of the internet. The internet used to live on screens. Now it lives in environments. It's ambient, it's invisible, and it's always watching. And that raises a much bigger question, which I want to put to you, Jason, which I want to put to you, Matt. If every object around us becomes intelligent, if every object around us becomes connected, if every object around us becomes capable of collecting data, then what actually happens to the concept of our private lives?
Well, I think we've been exposing our private lives through laziness for quite a while. And what I mean by that is just we're too busy to read the small prints. We can't be bothered. How many times a day do you accept all cookies? Do you even think about it? Do you care? And I think most people are like that. And so we've been playing victim to this small print for quite a while. And obviously, where there's data, there's money. It can be used, as you've said, Jag, to predict patterns for advertising, and obviously just to sell on the data as well to third parties. So to answer your point, it doesn't surprise me. I think organizations that want to make money will continue to do this, and people, consumers, will continue to say, I'm okay for you to do this without even giving it a thought. But the telemetrics one's really interesting. You mentioned insurance companies for cars, because I used to work with one of the big insurance companies in the UK, and they still do have a telemetrics product that I helped promote. And it was useful in one way, in that if you had boy racers that were driving their Subaru Imprezas too fast and they were too young, and perhaps they'd had a few prangs in their always blue Subaru Imprezas, you could reduce that by sticking a tracker, or as they put the telemetrics, sexy name for it. They put that on the car and track how you drive. And if you drove nice and steady and slow and didn't wheel spin on your way to the corner shop, you would eventually get some reductions in your insurance premiums. That's great. But it also worked in the opposite way, because actually the premiums would go up if you went back to old ways. With the telemetrics, obviously, it's very much a product that gets sent to you. So there's a lot of consent. It's not just click, click, accept. So there's a difference in that. The other thing I want to touch on with regards to the data following where your car goes. I mean, the camera looking at your face is mind-blowing, but I've recently been shown in my feed on Instagram, Live 360 and iSharing, and these are apps which track your partner. Most of them use the phone, but there was one that was using the GPS of certain car models, that you could connect this app to speak to your partner's car. Well, speak to as in like track it using the GPS. So it's already been monetized in that way. I'm sure from what you've just talked about that you've got a company like Toyota who sold that data to a third party, who's then sold that to one of these track your partner apps. So I'm already seeing ads for this, and I've already been involved in the telemetric side of things. So it's not mega surprising for me, but pin cameras, that is wild.
Yeah, so my Tesla's had a camera facing the cabin since I bought it, and I've never felt very uncomfortable having that, because I know like Tesla owns the whole ecosystem and all of that stuff. But some of these other manufacturers that basically put, a bunch of parts from various different OEMs together, Continental, or Bosch, all of these companies, and they kind of just like package up a product. They'll look for every bit of revenue they can, right? And sell that. So I've been trying out a couple of Chinese cars to get a second car that I didn't want to spend too much money on. I tried this like Leap Motor, and I tried this Jetor, and they've all got this like camera just literally on your A-pillar facing the driver's seat. And it's literally like in your face. Like the Tesla is like a kind of a cabin camera, whilst this is just like literally in your face. And they say it's to automatically detect who's getting in the car, so it gets your seat the right position, the massage seats go on in your previous setting and all of that stuff. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, you could easily see, because all of these Chinese cars are pretty much all connected via SIM card anyway, so you can get all the smart features and you can watch TV in the back seat and whatever the Chinese Netflix and all that is. But yeah, I can just see it being so much more kind of invasive now, because you wouldn't really consent to have like cameras facing you when you're at home, right? So this is like literally a couple of hours a day, or however long you spend in the car. It can be listening to all your conversations. It could really be, it could really figure out who you are way more than just that telemetry box that just knows how hard you brake and how hard you accelerate. Because really, does that really matter? Okay, my insurance might go up a little bit or down, but it doesn't know who I am, right? It can't sell me advertising based on how hard I brake or something like that. And so that's the one thing. And when I look at how smart TVs have changed, like they are so cheap now. I've just literally bought some new TVs for around the house and bedrooms and whatever. They're so cheap. And then YouTube comes up with a video saying why smart TVs are so cheap. And obviously they're selling so much data. And I mean, their real margins are this data selling and, seeing everything that you watch and kind of building a profile based on that. But Jag, I wanted to ask you, if connected car data monetization is projected to become like a multi-billion-dollar industry by, say, 2030 or whatever, do you see a future where like automakers drastically kind of reduce the price of cars just the way they have done with smart TVs, just to try to kind of lock us in to their data collection and their ecosystem of data harvesting.
Oh yeah, completely. I think already we're heading towards a world where the car is no longer the real product. The data generated by the car of the primary user, the secondary user, the family, the connections that travel in that car with the main owner, that is far more valuable than the actual product itself, than the actual car. The car is now just a computer on wheels. It's a data collection ecosystem. And I think the behavioral insights, are much more commercially valuable than the physical vehicle itself. And then there are other offshoots from this as well, because, insurance companies set to benefit from this greatly. It can potentially become a world where every action becomes economically judged in real time. And that's not great, is it? That's, you certainly won't have that sense of freedom going into your car anymore. I think what worries me more, though, well, actually, I'll ask the question to you guys, actually. What would worry you more with regards to the data? Would you worry more that it's governments collecting this data or corporations?
I worry about facial ID data being stolen, just because it just feels more personal than passwords and emails, and it's my face. So if you've got a camera, like one of Jason's 300 fleet of cars that he's got in his underground garage with the cocktail bar, if you've got one of these Chinese cars and it's got this camera, it's obviously then taking the data of your face. Where is that configuration of data that is making up your individual face going? I know people have been opening their iPhones for a while with facial recognition, but for some reason, I feel way more apprehensive about giving my face data to a car, to Toyota, to, Subaru. So for me, it's corporations or government, both. I mean, they're both scared the hell out of me, especially when they're taking my face.
If we look forward to, say, 2030 or 2035 or whatever it is, it's hard not to see a world where it will just be kind of self-driving cars pretty much everywhere. And, we're just being chauffeured from place to place. At the moment, most cars aren't, crazy data connected yet. So you kind of still have that space where, no one's really tracking really much about what you do. But just imagine sitting in the back of a robo-taxi. You just want to get from A to B, but these cameras are all on you. They're listening to everything that you say. And if that's the future mode that we all travel pretty much, because it's just so cost effective and just so easy to be driven around everywhere, then it's the perfect place to spy on you, because you're literally sitting there. All the sensors are there gathering all the data about you, and you just want the cheapest ride to get to A to B, right? Do you think there'll be kind of premium services? We do not track you. We do not, create these things about you, But I guess when Matt, your point, one point about your face, it's like you go into any retail store and there's CCTV cameras just pointing at you anyway. I don't think you can protect your face anymore. What do you think?
Have you seen Four Lions? He protects his face with his two hands. Yeah, that worked. That really worked. Yeah, you're right, actually. I guess I guess my point was, I've got used to giving my face to my phone. You're right. When you walk into Boots, if you look up, there's that kind of a green thing that goes on your face. That doesn't scan it, but recognize it's kind of pointing at you. It's just giving it to a car that's kind of blowing my mind, because I'm not used to, and I guess this is one of the points of Jag's discussion here is, it used to be a place where you just, get in, put the windows down, drive to the beach with your mates, freedom. And now I'm having to consider if it's stealing my face. So it just feels a bit more awkward. Whereas with social media and phones and CCTVs in retail shops, it's kind of always been there. I'm kind of used to it. So I think that's the main reason. I just don't want my car to do that.
Do you think the EU are going to put in that, I accept or I consent every time you go into the car to consent on all these data collection things? I remember like a whole bunch of cars back in the 2010s, every time you started the car, you'd have to press accept to use the GPS or whatever. It says do not use the screen while you're driving and all the rest of it. So I just wonder if you're going to have to accept everywhere, or if you deny, then the cost of your ride goes up, or what do you reckon the future is going to look like?
Well, on the facial recognition thing, I mean, we're already there because you enter a country and it's that automatic queue, and then I'm just scanning my passport and it scans my face and lets me through. Especially when I enter and leave Hong Kong, it's all fine. I don't even need to scan my passport anymore. I just stand and it scans my face and it lets me out. And then it lets me back in the same way. I don't even need to put my passport down on any readable screen. So they've got my face. To enter my 24-hour gym, which I'm sure you can imagine I'm there all the time, I need to scan my face as well just to enter the gym. So my gym has my face. You know, no matter how much weight I gain, it still recognizes me. So that's working. And so, yeah, I think we've already lost it on the face thing. One more question on this, and then I think we can move on. Matt, earlier on in this conversation, you mentioned about, the whole click and accept, for convenience. We've never consciously agreed to live inside behavioral surveillance systems, but we always just kept click and accept because the products became useful enough, and usually, reading the terms was, not worth our time because the terms were so long. So convenience replaced informed consent. But do you guys believe that anyone cares about privacy anymore? Or have we psychologically given up?
I think people still care, but there's only so much energy you can put into it before you're just like, just let it go. And one good thing about AI or AI agents that could be coming in the future is that it can read the terms and conditions for you and give you a summary to say, hey, everything looks good with this site, except they're going to sell your images to these companies. Are you okay with that? And you say, I don't know. What do you think? And then it'll say, you can have this conversation to say, like, it can scan all the websites that you go to or any service that you go to. And I'm pretty sure that it's gonna do that in the future. So then at least we can claw our privacy back a little bit, because right now it's just a minefield, and everyone, like you said, no one has time to go through that whole document and say, yeah, okay, I've read it.
I like the idea of using AI to just summarize the T's and C's, but then you've still got to remember, unless you have an agentic one that you just say, look, whenever something pops up, give me the headlines of these T's and C's. How many people do that? I don't know. But you know what? It reminds me, so the majority of people, unfortunately, have got other stuff going on in their lives, so just haven't got the time. It just becomes too boring and too time consuming. Have you ever seen these messages? They used to appear on Facebook. I'm not sure you guys venture into Facebook that much, but remember back in the day, every now and again, Auntie Susan would post something on Facebook saying, please write, I do not consent to use my information for the war in Afghanistan. Please repost this on your Facebook page and you will be exempt from these terrible conditions that you've been tricked into. I don't know if you ever saw that, but that was kind of the maximum rebuff that I ever saw from people. And even then it was mainly just 60 plus Karens living in Northern England sharing it to each other because they thought that they would get around some sort of Facebook legislation.
And did you repost what Auntie Sue wrote? Were you a good nephew?
I certainly did not, no. I just laughed at it and went, Jesus, why am I on Facebook? But before that, it used to be, please share this now, otherwise 2 members of your family will perish within a year. All that absolute nonsense. I kind of box it into that same thing.
When I first met Jason many years ago, I think around 2010, maybe even slightly earlier than that, he was driving a Jaguar. I forget which model Jaguar, but I just remember being super impressed.
XF.
A Jaguar XF. And he was a young man, Matt. He was a young man. And he was driving around, in kind of like the car he had, that Jaguar XF, is the kind of thing you'd expect like your uncle to have. The uncle that wears, a trench coat and the one that can get you anything cheaper. And he's probably got it in the boot of his car, along with some questionable items that could double up as weapons. But no, this was Jason's vehicle. What was your first car, Matt?
My first car was a Toyota Avensis diesel with an inbuilt TomTom where you had GPS, but you had this like weird kind of dial that you had to turn to select stuff. It was a company car for a pharmaceutical company that I worked for, my first big job after uni, wearing a tie that I didn't know how to tie, wearing a shirt from Marks and Spencer's in a Toyota Abensis.
Very nice. I forgot about TomTom. I wonder if they're still around.
Jag, do you still have your with Go Faster stripes?
I mean, that's a
You're a boy racer, Jag, aren't you?
that's a security-related question, and I wouldn't be silly enough to answer what kind of car I had, and especially what first car I had, because that can be a common question when answering security-related questions online. So I can't confirm if I have that car, if I ever had that car, but I do like a car with Go Faster stripes on it. I do.
Jag, did you ever have a Nova?
No, I'm too young for a Nova, but when I was in school, I did have a teacher that had a Nova, a sporty Nova, Mr. Ady. He was a chemistry teacher. Mr. Ady had a red sporty Nova. He was from Swansea in Cardiff. God knows what a man from Swansea is doing in Cardiff. Probably came to ruin the kids there and not teach us properly. No, he's a good teacher, good guy with a sporty Nova. Right, let's move on, guys. And you know what, Jace? I'm excited for your story. Google, ton of updates. Take us through it.
Yeah, so I stayed up late watching the Google I/O keynote yesterday, and I think, I'm just so excited. I really, really think that they're like really pushing. All of the AI companies are pushing like crazy at the moment. Like they're building all these features at unprecedented scale. So it just makes me really, really happy. And I think AI is probably building most of the stuff anyway, but it's really cool. So, like we've talked about this in previous episodes, like people who are just using, ChatGPT or Grok or Claude or whatever in the web browser and just asking it questions and getting stuff back. That's all old hat now. And, it's all been completely updated in the last couple of months. I feel like supercharged on AI, and now Google is catching up to that, catching up to Codex and Claude Code, and literally, creating these apps for your desktop as well as being way more integrated onto your phone, right? And so we're really moving into that agentic era. We were talking about it for a while, but anyway, it feels like a heavy tech buzzword, but basically it's becoming more and more integrated into our lives. And again, seeing what they're doing with Android 17, it's like really, really makes me excited. So they showed this demo of someone planning a massive neighborhood block party, and they basically just asked the agent, give it a list of ideas. It scanned the user's Gmail, and for RSVPs, automatically built a live tracker in Google Sheets and kept updating it in the background as new emails rolled in, right? It even read random PDF documents in the user's Google Drive about local neighborhood rules to warn them that they couldn't set up a bouncy castle before Friday. So it's really proactive, and it's not reactive. It's not asking you all these things. It's working in the background for you, scanning your Gmail. You just tell it what you're doing, and it's literally talking to you about all this stuff, right? And this is kind of redefining how we kind of find information, right? Before Google search, you just type something in and you get something back, and then you have to click through the links. Obviously, we know that, but now this is the biggest redesign that they've done in 25 years history. So the classic search bar is gone, and now it's all your searches are actually running on Gemini 3.5 Flash, right? And there's this developer architecture called anti-gravity, which is, we'll go into a bit later anyway. But, we've talked about this before where, in the future, you aren't going to spend hours browsing the web and, looking for specialized apps, right? If you type in, build me a custom weekend planner that balances my calendar, handles driving times, accounts for my kids' animal interests, right? Google won't just find websites. It will code things on the fly for you and deploy a fully interactive custom app for you, right? Which is just crazy. And how it does it in a couple of seconds, or in the demo they showed it did. So it looks like that we're going to actually stop browsing the web as we do, literally in the next year. This whole thing is going to be change people's lives. I don't know if you saw the Google Maps demo that they did Sundar Pichai was showing someone who had been using the app. It was as a mother, and it asked something along the lines of, my kid has fallen into a pond and we've got a birthday party in the next hour. Where can I walk to that I can buy a new dress for my daughter? And and I can have her ready in the next hour or so. And Google Maps like literally takes all of those bits of information and then showed her where in walking distance she could go. It's like you could just tell it your plans now. Google Maps. It's not okay restaurants and then clicking through. Okay, going down in submenus, Italian, whatever for finding restaurants. You just tell it, look, hey, I'm feeling like this type of food and I've got these dietary requirements. It probably already knows your dietary requirements anyway, but it's like this whole thing where they're integrating all their services with the AI, and it's like getting supercharged, right? And there's this really cool Gemini Omni, which is basically their world model, which, for generating videos is amazing. It, understands intuitive physics, kinetic energy, and gravity. And they showed like you could just take a really rough video on your phone. The demo they showed was just a lady playing on the guitar, for her music video. And it literally, created a 360 shot and like added animations in the back and all sorts. It's like literally if you're a marketer right now, you're just supercharged with what they're able to create for you, And the part that I actually, there's two parts that I liked. There was another part where they debuted Docs Live, where basically you don't type prompts anymore. You basically just verbally brain dump your total mess of thoughts. Like you can stutter, you can correct yourself mid-sentence, and the audio model basically somehow elegantly cleans it all up, and it can pull data like your resume or references from Google Drive and then basically formats a polished draft at the speed of your voice, which is just amazing. And the part that I liked the most in terms of tech was they showed off their new Google glasses, right? And so they're partnering with Samsung, Gentle Monster, and Warby Parker. And basically, the crucial thing here is that there are no screens inside the lenses, right? And so I was really impressed by the demo because it's got a camera, so you can see what you're doing, and you just talk to it. But whenever it needs to show you something, they showed off their Google Watch, right? So it keeps you in the real world because, I've seen a lot of these, AR, VR headset type things where, you've got these screens like distracting you from reality. But now, I don't know if you remember our predictions episode and talking about like how voice is going to be, the main way that we interact with it. And then like if you do need to look at a screen, you can, while you're out and about, you just look at your watch if it's generated a picture for you or, there's something visual you need to see. And the rest of it, you're just literally having a conversation with. And yeah, I mean, like, I think that Google's going to win with this type of concept because, who wants to walk around with a giant heavy display on your face and taking up so much power? I don't know. Well, what did you guys think? Did you guys see the video of the summary of Google I/O?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions, though, just based on what you've just said first. The Google Glasses, is this part 2 or part 3, this new Google Glasses? I like the idea without the distractions, obviously. It makes sense. They're learning from the UX of the previous ones. But what happened to OpenAI's soap on a rope thing that was supposed to be like just listening? That was just this, that was going to be, you saw the huge fanfare that was surrounding that. You had that famous designer walking through the streets of San Francisco, the guy who helped design the iPhone, meeting up with Sam Altman for a coffee, and they talked about this thing that would just listen and talk to you, right? With no visual, no screen, the end of the screen. So what happened to that? Because that was supposed to have been released ages ago. So Google have got ahead of that with this, and it's listening more. It's this kind of concept of this AI brain listening and talking to you, and then great, showing you stuff that's not interfering with reality. So I guess they are ahead in terms of that. And the second thing I just wanted to, and this is the most boring aspect of what you talked about, and Jag's just probably going to go, shut up, Matt, move on. But I heard that for now, there's going to be the traditional search bar and then the new search bar. So like people who are stuck in the past and old and don't like change, you've got the two options. The first time they've changed it in 25 years. And I think they're changing the mouse. They've redesigned the mouse so you can click it to do with the AI as well. Makes me think, why would you use the old search bar rather than the new AI search bar? So they're the two things that immediately popped up to me. I don't know what questions I'm asking. I'm just kind of, that's what's spinning around my head when you introduce this.
Just one thing about the glasses point, right, is the demos that they were showing, right? So the glasses use the cameras to read kind of whatever the context is around you, right? But Gemini, as you're walking past something, it will whisper in your ear saying like, hey, that cafe right next to you has a great nitro cold brew, right? And your friend Dave was there last week. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I'm pretty sure that this is how they're going to get paid on impressions of ads, and so then if you want a quick visual and you're like, oh, what's this nitro coffee look like? And you just glance up at your wrist and you'll see a kind of a picture of whatever it is and maybe a price or whatever else it is. And in a way, it's a little bit scary, but in a way, because it's not making you take out your whole phone and like taking up your whole, your field of vision, you can kind of just take a glance at it or whatever. It just feels, I don't know, feels a little bit more human. But yeah, Jag, what do you reckon?
Be great if those glasses, you could run ads just to a specific person, So like a husband could run ads that go to his wife and whisper, to her, your husband is great. Give him a break.
Yeah, I'd subscribe to those ads as well. Yeah, definitely.
And what I found fascinating about what you told us, Jace, was that everything seemed to point towards the same idea. AI is no longer being positioned as a tool we occasionally use. It's being positioned as a layer that quietly sits between us and reality, organizing, interpreting, generating, shopping, filtering, remembering for us, doing all the rest, acting on our behalf. It feels like Google's trying to evolve from here's information to let us handle your life for you. My takeaway from it is that Google no longer wants to be a search engine. It wants to become an operating system to our lives, that the future of AI is becoming ambient, always present, always assisting, always listening, just like our cars. And at some point, all this convenience will stop feeling magical and it will start feeling, psychologically always present. So therefore psychologically, potentially invasive. I suppose a question to you, Jace, because you watched the whole thing. What do you think is the most important announcement that came out from this event?
I don't think it's any one announcement. I think it's actually onto your point. It's that they are trying to become that layer, and in a way, they've got all the right pieces into most people's life. If you use Gmail as your email, if you use Google Calendar or Apple Calendar or whatever you end up using, it knows so much about your life already that it's so far ahead of OpenAI and Claude and all the other guys about just knowing about you. And it can just become so much more useful to you doing things in the background, like all the things that we predicted before. But I think that it's seeing that vision actually kind of realized through all of these little announcements that they keep on making, that like you said, they want to run your life in a way or make your life easier. And it's all through them, because that will expand their moat. I mean, if you just look at Google stock price, right? Like investors are seeing this is what they're trying to do. Over the last 12 months, I think it's up 133% or something like that. Google, this is huge for like a multi-trillion-dollar company in 1 year to go up that much. It's ridiculous. And I think that they've got all the pieces, even Google ads, they're so well positioned on all sides to really take a massive share of the AI market.
Is this going to make you switch from iPhone to Android? No iPhone 18 for Jason?
Yeah, I wanted to go into this. I mean, like, when I asked my iPhone the other day, there was a screenshot sent to me for a car wash service, and you have to, get the QR code, and then that will take you to their booking form. So then I just asked Siri, hey, go to the QR code, and then it came up, but here's a suggested app for you, and it was QR code scanner. And so even then, so I just clicked on download, opened the QR code scanner, but the picture's on my phone. What I'm trying to say, and I tried that on the Android phone, it took me straight there. It's like the phone is so much smarter. And I think my expectations have been raised to such a point now that I keep on looking at my iPhone at the moment and saying, man, this could be so much more. And it feels like slightly dumb now compared to what you're getting with a lot of these AI tools and what's currently on the horizon for Google. And it might be the first time that I just switch if Apple don't come out with similar type of innovations in WWDC in like a month and a bit. Yeah, so I'm really on the fence now. I'm definitely thinking about making the switch if Apple don't. But I've been told that Apple is going to be integrating a lot more of the Google services, and I think that hopefully they'll give access to Google to kind of get all the context from your phone. I don't know how that's going to work. I mean, for the privacy point of view, but yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to go for a switch if there's nothing great on iPhone. But I still love Apple. By the way, I still love Apple. Apple are the greatest. I love them.
You talk like they're listening in, like the whole C-suite is listening to the podcast. But I can't believe Siri. I mean, Siri, just you mentioning, I spoke to Siri. I cannot remember the last time I used Siri. It's literally got to be 5+ more years. It was so pathetic when it first came out that I just don't even give it a chance anymore. I'm going to use Siri today and see how it goes.
Please, everyone use Siri. Just try to ask it like really simple questions and just see how it just gives you web links. It's like, how are we in 2026, with this amazingly high-powered iPhone 17 Pro Max that can do all sorts of AI and, it's been rumored, and Apple Intelligence is just, unfortunately, so, I don't know. But anyway, Tim Cook is on the way out and we've got a new CEO coming in, so hopefully things change. What do you reckon, Jag? Is it going to change?
I reckon we're going to get a foldable iPhone announced this year. That's for sure. But, they need to change. I mean, let's see. But yeah, thanks for that update, Jace. And you know what? Let's move on to our next story. And Matt's got kind of an aggressive robotics update for us.
Well, yeah, first of all, I'm not Matt Webster from 2026. I'm actually Matt Webster from 2030. I've traveled back in time for this podcast because I knew that this was going to happen. I needed to change what the original Matt was going to talk about. So this is really important because I don't know if it's been blowing up your IG feeds, your Instagram feeds this week, but for me, certainly, I've seen the RoboCop walking with the police, strolling out in front of the public. I've seen a CEO get kicked to the floor, holding pads in an MMA gym, and I've seen kung fu action robots. And this initially was sent through the dark web, as in WhatsApp, lots of WhatsApp groups. My WhatsApp was blowing up, and then I went and checked, and then my socials were blowing up about this. And what's interesting is this is not Tesla. This is not Boston Dynamics. It's definitely not Neo from 1X. And it's not the Cyberdyne Systems or Skynet, but it's close. It's Ambient AI. And this is this Chinese robotics company, which is now specializing and focusing on humanoid robots. And so I looked at this and I hadn't heard of Ambient AI before. They've been around since 2023. And they've made this their kind of flagship humanoid robot, which is in the videos that you'll see where you've got this RoboCop humanoid walking with official police, officially patrolling the streets of Shenzhen. It's called a T800. Now, there's no surprise that they've used that because it's going to provoke a lot of emotion, a lot of fear, and a lot of attention because, of course, the T800 was Arnie's Terminator in the first Terminator, and then the T1000 was the polymetal alloy moving parts version of Terminator in T2. They've also got these smaller versions as well, the SC01, the PM01, less controversial in the names, but the T800 is 5'8", is 75 kilograms. But here's the stat, which has got me kind of frothing a little bit. It's got a torque of 450 Newton meters. What does that mean? It basically means it's got a lot of rotational force that it can produce. To put it into simple terms, it's got a similar strength of twist and grip as equivalent to a heavy-duty truck with a V8 engine, a heavy-duty pickup truck, that is. So it can, even though it's only 5'8" and 75 kilograms, with that kind of torque and power that it possesses, it can easily overpower a human. But the thing that's got me really excited, the thing that's got a lot of people that in my circles talking about this, is its balance and how it moves. And that's down to the AI that it's got within its systems. We've seen humanoid robots before. We've seen Teslas folding clothes. We've seen Neo from 1X trying to put dishes into dishwashers and falling over. But this one is not, this T800. You can tell it, as Jag introduced, it's not friendly looking. It is actually designed for physical intervention. And it's no longer looking like an expensive toy. It's looking like something that might actually become part of society, or already is in Shenzhen, a part of public safety. Some other things I just want to quickly touch on before you get your thoughts on this. It seems as though the Chinese government have been forcing or encouraging robotics companies like Ambient AI, like Unitree, which is another one based in Hangzhou. They're getting them to produce humanoid robots. The Chinese government set a goal to develop the best humanoid robots by 2025. And these companies before were building those kind of very scary robot dogs. So there's been a switch to humanoid. And here's the thing that gets me even more, let's say, excited, animated, interested in this. Ambient AI have also announced that they're going to create the world's first robot fighting tournament. It's going to be a free combat league, 16 teams. They all get a free T800. So this is university labs, engineers, tech boffins, putting their teams into this $1 million prize for this tournament. And the thing is, Ambient AI are using this as a testing ground under extreme conditions for their robots. You've got 3 rounds. A KO is if the robot can't get up after 10 seconds, or a technical KO if humans have to go in and reset the machines more than twice. What this is doing is creating lots of data, and it's crowdsourcing combat intel for these robots that can actually fight martial arts style in the ring with each other. So when I look at that, I'm obviously excited because I'm into MMA and I quite like Muay Thai and those sports. So it really does catch my attention. But when I realized that they're doing it to generate data on violence between robots, you start to think about, okay, these robots now exist in society. Are they going to be used for emergency situations? Are they going to be used for crowd control, bomb disposal? And then the final big one, ground troops. Because if you're a rich enough nation to afford these machines, but you don't want your sons and daughters to put boots on the ground, well, why not just send in a bunch of T800s? So my question is, do you feel safer now that T800 exists? Would you feel safer if it was patrolling your neighborhood? Or are you scared to death?
For me, I think this story feels like one of those moments where science fiction suddenly starts looking little less fictional. Because when we look at what you presented here, Ambient AI's humanoid robot, the physicality, the movement, the strength, the naming convention, even the way it's being demonstrated, it genuinely evokes Terminator comparisons. And that normally would feel exaggerated. But I think what's changed culturally is that humanoid robotics no longer feels decades away. It suddenly feels commercially real. And China's robotics ecosystem is moving incredibly fast. Massive investment, government support, open source tooling, supply chain advantages, rapid iteration, especially through that modern day robot wars attempt they're having. Do you remember Robot Wars, BBC Two? This is
that was
it was great.
My goodness.
So I think this is no longer cute robot demo territory. This is industrial scale competition around embodied AI. To answer your question, I think I would be a little shocked to begin with, but with anything, I'd get used to it. I kind of it's a different example, but I'll go with it. When I got my undergraduate degree from the US, and when I first moved there, I was terrified every time I walked past a police officer because they all carry guns over there, and it just used to terrify me to the point where I wanted to walk very carefully and as far away as I could. I didn't want to like trip or make any kind of slight error, and I think that's probably how I'd be if I saw a humanoid looking robot walking down the street towards me. But question back to you, Matt, and maybe Jace can give a view on this as well. Do you guys actually think a humanoid robot, so a robot in human form, is it genuinely useful, or are we as companies, as societies, forcing the human form factor into machines unnecessarily?
Yeah, I think we're forcing it unnecessarily because we're obsessed with our own shape, because then we can kind of, if you've got a robot that stops you in the street that's shaped like a human, that tells you, "Stop, sir, you cannot go down the street, there is danger," you'd probably listen to it. But if it was shaped like a piece of blancmange in a bowl, like on wheels, you'd be like, "What's this?" If it's just some sort of weird contraption that you can't, it's harder to interact with, you might not take it as seriously. I think we just love, it's like when we depict aliens in movies, they've always got 2 arms, 2 legs, a head and 2 eyes, because we're obsessed with the human form. That's what I think.
I just think that it's just the logical choice, because the world is built for humans, meaning like all of the useful stuff that we need to get done is all like, so you create this humanoid robot, it can go into factories, it can become a police person, it can drive a car, like an old school car. It can literally do anything we can do. And obviously all the value that we provide as humans to others in our jobs or whatever, most of the time you're doing it with a, something built for humans. Not to say that that's not going to be like the end state of things, but as the world exists today, the humanoid is the best form factor to develop because it's just so versatile. You can cook your meals, you can do all the rest of it. Jag, I do feel the same as you in terms of the being a little bit scared in front of robots, especially if they're really surveilling you and seeing. As you go past it, does your heart rate go up? Things that your normal human counterpart police officer would never be able to know, right? Can it detect any signs of, I don't know, any illicit substances or anything that's rubbed off on your jacket or whatever through its X-ray or whatever spectral vision or whatever it's going to have in the future? I don't know. It would be a bit weird. And I do feel like if there's robots out there in the streets, I think, I don't know, the youth will just, I don't know, start getting very, I don't know, feel rebellious, against them, because it's it's like something you can mess with or not.
It's like something you could vandalize. It's not sure. A person.
For sure. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Instead of door knocking and running away, just push over a robot from behind and run away. Although that robot will have cameras in the back of its head, for sure. For sure.
Also, if you drive a Chinese car and it's got your facial recognition, then the robot just has to look at you. And if it's been sold that data, the robot already knows who you are and your criminal record and everything about you. So,
Matt, you mentioned in the previous episode about Richard Dawkins concluding that AI is now conscious. With these human form factor robots, at what point could they stop feeling like tools and start feeling, socially significant, part of society? AI consciousness in human form factor, roaming the streets. Don't they deserve the vote? Don't they deserve human rights?
Wow, you're going way down the line there. Yeah, maybe they would. But I mean, if Richard Dawkins can be tricked into thinking that the latest version of Claude has consciousness, and he's quite a clever chap in his field, then I think people can be tricked even easier if you've got something that's speaking to you coherently and is shaped like a human. So I think that could happen quite quickly. Again, if it was shaped like, like a lump of metal that spoke to you in a kind of Stephen Hawking's voice, then I think it'd be harder to connect and to have those feelings, any kind of feelings with it. But if it's got a humanoid shape and a humanoid voice and it speaks eloquently, people are going to fall for it. Richard Dawkins is already there.
Didn't you predict that this year a robot's going to kill a human? And you
Thanks, Jag. I was waiting.
You leaned in sexually. I remember on that one. You leaned that way.
That was a side lean. No, that was a side lean that you were helping.
I was not helping you lean that way. You were leaning. You were already leaning that way yourself.
I think I used a euphemism. Like I think it was comfort robot. But the main. But thanks for bringing that up because yes, I did predict that in the news. I think I made it too specific. I said that a home robot would either physically assault, harm, or kill. Did I say kill? It had to be killed, didn't it? I can't remember.
Did say kill.
Someone's going to get hurt. It's going to kill somebody in the home, and it's going to. Then the rules of what humans and robots mean to each other will be written.
Because in industrial form, that already happened in the 70s. A robot killed someone in the 70s.
So wait, if one of these cops, these RoboCops in Shenzhen, kills somebody on the street, rightly or wrongly, is that classed as industrial? But what if it happens in someone's house?
So you said in the home, so it needs to be in the home. But if it's a homeless person, that might be a grey area because the streets are their home.
What if it's a dawn raid on someone's house, it goes wrong, the robot's in their house?
I'd be disappointed if they're already allowing robot police to do home raids. But sure, if it happens in the home, if it's in the home or to a homeless person in the street, then I reckon you got it. So just pray for that.
Watch this space.
Pray for that death to happen to a homeless person.
I'm going to pray for that.
And then you got some bonus points in December.
Talking about robots killing other things, just going back to the Robot Wars point. Yeah, great show back in the day, right? But just imagine where there's a tournament and it's like the Tesla robots against the Unitree robots against all of these others, and it's like fight to the death. And then they have had like 3 in a ring at the same time, and they're like going for it, and it could be really entertaining. It's like
look how
knocking off the
excited
heads
you
and
are,
all that.
Jason.
Yeah. If you think about Robot Wars back then, you just had a spinning little thing or a little axe thing that just went boom, 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 and someone's controlling it with a remote control, right? So yeah, okay, that was fun back then. But just imagine if you're a kid growing up and you seeing these robots like just going at it in a ring or whatever. Don't you just think it's like quite like very entertaining,
And it's real. It's happening. No more Conor McGregor. Instead, it's the T-800s.
But it's also a way of showing like technical superiority. So that's why I think China are doing it, to try to like show the world. Because, most of the world still runs on this Western software, meaning, mostly American software, whatever else it is. China's got their own stuff. And I'm not saying that they're in any way really behind, but most of the world still runs on that. And, vehicles, even though China are putting out great vehicles, still most of the world aren't driving Chinese cars. And I don't think even though they are very cheap, I don't think they're going to take over the world just yet. But they have the supply chain, they have the will, they have a declining population or whatever. That's what reports say. So they need these robots there to continue making stuff and, keeping China great. Because if everyone has a Chinese robot in their house, right, that's doing things for them, that's like the operating system that is doing, productive work for you. And it's like, that's their way of then kind of having a huge influence on the world, way more than, just the smartphones and stuff.
Yeah. Also, we've talked about blue collar jobs being safe for now, safe from AI. But actually, if you look at how this T800 moves and how those G1s by Unitree move, they're the ones that were dancing in the Spring Festival gala video. Check it out if you haven't seen it. The way that these new humanoid robots move, it looks like they could do the plumbing. It looks like they could come and do the, be the electrician that you call that pops around. So looks like blue collar jobs have gone as well.
Sorry, I have to go back to the robot thing because it really makes me excited. I just saw Mortal Kombat 2 in the cinema, and I was thinking, just imagine if they put on all the animatronic type things on the faces and all of that, and they had them dressed up as Johnny Cage and Kitana or whatever else it is, and then they go fighting. There's these two separate robot companies, and then they do the finish him, take their head up off, all of that stuff. You'd be like, whoa, how amazing, it's just
that's too good. I would love that.
I can't wait. The Jag, looking very excited.
I can't believe you saw Mortal Kombat in the cinema. I mean, there's the Michael movie, there's Devil Wears Prada 2, there's Sheep Detectives, but oh no, gotta go see Mortal Kombat 2.
Sorry, I haven't actually watched a film in the cinema for such a long time. My cousin came to Dubai, and for some reason he wanted to go see this film, so I humoured him and went. And all I could just think about is robots for some reason.
No, that's fair enough. Mortal Kombat was a badass game back in the day. SNES, Mega Drive, good times. Do you know what, guys? We're going to close this up, but just to help with a few nostalgia points, or just close up a few points. So, Roadblock, Panic Attack, Chaos 2, those are some of the heroes from Robot Wars. If you ever watched the show with Craig Charles back in the day, Roadblock had that road closed ahead sign on it, if you remember it. So that was Robot Wars. I'm sure it's available somewhere online. And Jason, you mentioned earlier, what is the Chinese version of Netflix? And I will tell you that the Chinese version of Netflix is called iQIYI. Spelt IQIYI, but pronounced iQIYI. And yeah, do you know what, guys? I think we'll wrap it up there. Matt, thank you for that story. We didn't get an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression from you, which you did do off the recording. Do you want a last chance to...
I'm so sorry I didn't do that for you. Next time I'll do it for you, okay? Thanks, Jag.
Well done.
No, that sounds like Zippy. It sounds like Zippy's just
you sound like the one off The Simpsons that is meant to be a rip-off of Arnie, whatever his name was.
I'm here to entertain you. I speak on the next episode of Disconnected.
Oh, that was really bad.
Brilliant. Well, thank you. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Jason. Do you know what, guys? Across all three stories tonight, surveillance cars, ambient AI ecosystems, and humanoid robots, it seems that we are slowly sleepwalking into a world where technology stops feeling like tools and starts feeling like an environment that we live inside. Thank you, listeners. This has been episode 113 of Disconnected, and we'll see you on the next one.